and it's getting incredibly hard to find yield that have fueled a lot of the retirement savings products. So I think we're kind of on the cusp of companies creating some really innovative products that may be more, a blast from the past.
Okay, fantastic. I'm super happy to have a friend of mine and someone who I guess we could say is a Hartford guy now, Paul Tyler. He is the Chief Marketing Officer of Nassau Re, and he is also the founder of Nassau Reimagine, a local incubator. Welcome, Paul.
Hey, thanks, Josh, and thank you for all the support you've given us over the course of the last 3 or 4 years here. Really appreciated it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been fun to see somebody kind of take the bull by the horns and try to put some innovation together in Hartford. And so we'll get to that in a minute, but maybe you could just share for folks a little bit about your background. You've done some interesting stuff, some entrepreneurial stuff, et cetera. And maybe you could tell folks a little bit about your background and kind of how it led you to where you are today.
Sure. Yeah. Well, currently I'm Chief Marketing Officer for Nassau Financial Group, and it's a company that's 5 years old, but we're I'd say blessed enough that we've acquired a couple companies now at this point with some very storied histories, as well as some really dedicated employees, particularly here in the Hartford area. Responsibilities, as you mentioned, include launching an incubator here in our area, driving innovation, as well as helping us find new partnerships and get into new channels of business that we might not have otherwise have opened. And my background's interesting. If you Josh, code word in the recruiting space. I think at one point somebody looked at this thing and I remember them saying, "Now, what exactly is it you're doing here?" But I kind of describe myself to people as somebody who really love to start things. I love to fix things, and I love to really, create businesses and opportunities that didn't exist before. You can dream up a great experience, but if you can't actually deliver with what you have, you don't have a product. So that's my career in a nutshell.
Got it. So, you strike me as someone who's been pretty hands-on. So I know you've been doing some things kind of in the retirement space in a hands-on way as well. So it seems like that's maybe a bit of the latest evolution of your focus. So could you maybe speak to that and sort of how that plays with, the annuity business and then how that fits into the overall Insurtech landscape?
I won't go into history, but we hit the pandemic. Our whole premise, as you know, on our advisory board, was really to bring startups to Hartford to get them to create jobs. Well, pandemic sort of changed a lot, but kind of reinforced, other fundamental needs. Coming to Hartford, creating, setting up shop. However, creating opportunities for people here in Hartford and bringing ideas and putting Hartford in the center of the map, absolutely, it actually worked great. And I think, Stacy Brown's had some really good success with his virtual networks. And we took our program virtual, but we also said, okay, maybe we could actually use this as an opportunity to put our stamp on the retirement space. Now, I'll actually kind of give you a sort of teaser for this. We're calling this Retire Tech. So far, nobody has copyrighted this hashtag term.
Right.
But we've spent the time to go deep this year on who's really reshaping the retirement industry. What do I mean by the retirement industry? It's this space really well. Software savings. We're looking at it broadly. Companies that are promoting savings for retirement, advice in retirement, products for retirement. Annuities, other products. Like annuities. Companies that are providing services to companies like ours to help us get better at providing retirement advice and service. So we'll actually be shortly releasing a map of like the 100 most innovative companies that are doing very cool things in the retirement space, really changing the shape of and map of our business. So we're excited to do that. We'll hopefully have this out in the next 2 weeks.
Oh, that's cool. And so, how much of that map sort of touches insurance and then the intersection with Insurtech in your mind?
Oh, I would say 100% of it. I would think where it varies is who the end target customer is for the startups. Is it millennial? Is it a baby boomer? Is it a person? This is kind of an interesting question. Is somebody in their house, they're individuals, right? Or is it somebody at work? Work and home are blending so much. It's creating some just interesting mashups in this arena. And then there's some macroeconomics in play as well, because, it's no secret interest rates have been very, very low for a long period of time. And it's getting incredibly hard to find yield that have fueled a lot of the retirement savings products. So I think we're kind of on the cusp of companies creating some really innovative products that may be more, a blast from the past. These may look more like Tontines. And, Tontines are the famous, look, Josh and Paul and everybody will put their money in a pile, and whoever outlives everybody else gets the money.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with interest, it has everything to do with mortality. So a lot of interesting questions here. And by the way, is the product, insurance contract, or is the product really a software program that helps you decumulate your assets? Manage your healthcare, manage your healthcare expenses, tell you when to take your Social Security.
Yeah. So has the pandemic changed the way people, sort of think about what their assets are, in the sense of, most of the things historically you've seen, like, focused on the accumulation phase, then sort of the maintenance phase, and then obviously there's the transfers phase, to next generation and that aspect. But now you've got, quality of life issues, people probably thinking about their health differently. And so, how do you define retirement in that context? Is it different than that, sort of traditional stages, or those traditional stages?
Our particular, the annuities we sell have always been primarily around people looking for guaranteed income. People want to take de-risk their portfolio.
Yeah.
Because you think you're younger, you want to accumulate, markets can go up and down, but if you leave your money in long enough, I think everybody has been trained at this point, let it ride. If the market dips, you're going to have enough time to for your portfolio to recover. Well, as you start to get closer and closer to your retirement age, the risk of a market downturn can have like a monumental impact on the quality of life beyond there, right? Because you think about this, the market crashes just as you retire. Well, you've stopped making contributions. Oh, and worse, you've started to have to draw against your principal. So I think the issues were, prior to the pandemic, we had such a bull market that people were saying, yeah, I want to take some risk off, but with these products, I want to see, Paul, that's great. You can protect some of my income from the market risk, but I really want to get more of that upside.
Yeah.
So we had people who were halfway in the market, halfway not. Pandemic hit, and I think all of the guarantees of the product became more important. Guaranteed income, guaranteed income benefits in case you find yourself hospitalized or in a nursing home for a longer period of time. Josh, prior to the pandemic, when am I ever going to be in a nursing home? I'm in my 50s. Oh, right. Maybe this could happen. This really could happen to me. So I think people have shifted to think about guarantees a lot more. I think they've also started to think, maybe I'm not really going to wait 10 years or 15 years to retire. Maybe I want to either step back from my job, or as you look at some of the labor stats, older age workers were some of the first to be let go. We don't want to talk about ageism in the workplace, but it happens and it's there. And you may have been making a great salary. You thought you were going to work for 10 years, and guess what? You're not. So how do you sort of manage your way in, start to create a paycheck today so that maybe you're not fully unemployed? You've got some stream of income, but you're able to supplement with others. So we're seeing all kinds of shifts in terms of needs. Now, whole nother train of discussion in terms of, so great, I need help. How do I get it?
So I got a little bit of a curveball question for you. I know we're kind of coming up on time here a little bit, but being in the Hartford area and Hartford Insurtech Hub and Upward Labs and some of the other, even Hartford Hospital and what they've done with their program, has a pretty high percentage of the companies that have been brought in for these programs have come from overseas. And I'm just curious, are there any sort of overseas startups or folks that you've brought in or think you might bring in, and are there any approaches to sort of the retirement question that you've seen from overseas that maybe could have some impact here in the U.S.?
Yeah, we actually have a number of companies on this list in Europe. Now, retirement planning, wealth, is such a so bounded by laws of particular regions.
Yep.
That the product or the application may be so narrow that it only applies to one particular process. However, we've seen a lot of innovation, especially like in the just financial planning space, the drawdown space, the employer group space. That I think there are a lot of ideas that would be great if we could pull some of those energies and ideas here.
Yeah. All right, great. Well, is there anything else we haven't covered today as it pertains to Nassau Reimagine, or just what you're doing going forward, or even your own podcast? Anything else you'd like to cover before we wrap up?
Yeah. Hey, well, thanks so much. Hey, listen, if you want, we got a Reimagine podcast. Love to get people to listen. It's really, the podcast is targeted at innovation leaders. A lot of people you've had on your podcast, as well as investors. So we've really intended the podcast to be a way to go deeper into a company than you might get in a 5-minute pitch or a 10-page pitch deck. Really get to understand who the startup, the founder is, and what makes them tick. So definitely check that out. I think listen, and if any of these listeners have some really good ideas in the retirement space, come to us. If we can't use it, we'd love to connect you with people who do. And I think for people in Hartford is, Josh, I think the biggest opportunity now is, rather than bringing startups here, is how do we like leverage our talent around the world? If there's ever a time where you could stay in Hartford or the Connecticut region today and do some really cool work for companies all around the world, it's today. So how do we take some of our talent and connect them with all these people who need our help?
Yeah. All right, great. Well, Paul, really appreciate having you on. And it's Paul Tyler. He is the Chief Marketing Officer for Nassau Financial Group and the founder of Nassau Reimagine.